Welcome back to the Mavericks, everybody. Mayor Reynolds, aka Midnight Mayor, here coming at you with another Deadrop video. And we got a special one coming at you today. So, as many of you know, I've been playing in Deadrop tournaments. These are unofficial tournaments, they're community events. You guys know I've been working extremely hard to find out everything there is about this game, become a better player, and then share all that information with you guys, which is exactly what today's video is about. I approached professional gamer, pro Splitgate player. He's competed in many levels. He's also an FPS coach. Micavelli. You can find him on Twitch, Twitter, Discord, whole bunch of platforms. He offers coaching on Metafy and a variety of platforms. And I said, hey, why don't we watch one of my VODs from the most recent Deadrop tournament that I played in? Tell me what I did wrong. Tell me what I did well. And let's see what tips you can offer. You know, he's competed in a variety of games, and he has played Deadrop. He has streamed Deadrop. I've watched him stream Deadrop, actually. And you can find all his links down below in the description, like I said. And that's what this video is about. He's going to watch my tournament. We're going to talk about my style of play, my basic FPS mechanics, what I did well, what I didn't do well, the tournament mindset, how you can maximize yourself. So that's what this is about. So with no further ado, let's let Micavelli do the talking.
So getting into it, like in general, this game has a lot of RNG involved, obviously, when it comes to like the drops you're going to find in general and where you're going to spawn. Those are the two key variables. So main thing you want to start off with, obviously, depending on what loot you start out with, typically, like I like to go in with like basic armor and like sometimes a gun, like just a basic level gun. But the main thing is you want to try to minimize as much RNG without necessarily like risking too much. But if you're playing in a tournament setting, obviously it's not gonna, like, they're gonna have their own rules on what you can and can't start with and all that. But in general, the main thing you want to focus on though is like, depending on where you start, if you're high or low, you want to like play accordingly. So the more low ground you're at, more of a disadvantage you're going to be at when it comes to being shot at from multiple angles. But you also do kind of have like an advantage when it comes to being able to like sneak up and find people based on spawns, like people that are coming off respawns immediately. But that being said, ideally you want to try to play from above to below as much as you can. The more you're having to fight upwards and play angles that are like disadvantageous, you're going to be getting gunned by people that might not necessarily have better loot than you. But yeah, a lot of the RNG and BRs in general is just how can you best reduce as much RNG as possible when it comes to the game itself. So that being said, like this game has a lot of like, some of the guns are just trashed here and some of the guns are really broken. A lot of the people I've been hearing recently have been using the shotguns, like pump shot, you can just insta kill somebody. So like the things that don't have counterplay are typically the main things you want to be playing around in this type of a game. Like if you have a shotgun, you have a pump, you can force the person to kind of play close to you, play closer engagements, and pretty much guarantee the kill. It's just like a sniper in the sense that like if you see the guy, you're in a better position, you're gonna, if you hit your shot, you're gonna win.
This is an interesting exchange here.
Okay. So this is nice. You're using the cover perfectly. In general, try peeking multiple angles at once. Like if you peek the same angle again and again, like 3 times left peek there, like it's a lot easier for the guy to get the shot on you. In general though, like if you have cover, the guy doesn't, you're already ahead in the fight. Right. Even 0-0, like you're gonna be ahead of the fight. But try to mix it up in general, like peek above, peek right, peek left. Mix it up as much as you can when it comes to those types of peeks.
If you look right back in the beginning of this too, so like I'm fighting this guy. Let me roll it back here a second. There's a sniper up above too at the high ground that like you point out. He's not on crane. I think he's up on, he's either up top somewhere or sky bridge. So that's part of the reason why I was playing behind the covers, because I see it. I see and I heard the shot come down. Yeah, you see it, the bullet trail right there.
Sky bridge.
And then another guy runs in after I hit the right here.
So that guy this guy peeks after you have shots on him, you have the advantage. But going back to that first fight, if you see the guys on Skybridge, you want to isolate your opponent. So like if you know that you're getting engaged from multiple angles, it's not that he's going to shoot you over the other guy, it's that you just don't want to be in line of sight. So if you're fighting a 1v1, if you even get that first or second shot on top of the guy, like you had on cover, so you were ahead, at that point you're like 2 shots ahead, you have a guy shooting at you from above. So if you isolate the fight, meaning like you, let's say, even push to the right out of the cover, so the guy up top on Skybridge can't see you even if he tries, even if he peeks, but the other guy's just gonna have a straight up fight with you. Ideally, obviously, you want to use cover always, but if you know that there's another guy that has an angle on you, you could isolate the other guy that you already have an advantage on and try to push that fight more, and then confirm that.
Okay.
There was another guy there, so if you do become aware of that other character, that other person, he's closer to you, you have more to worry about. You want to basically play around that guy more. But yeah, just try to isolate your fights as much as possible, especially in situations like that where you're not height, but you're not all the way low ground, but there's a guy that has the advantageous position on Skybridge there.
That's why I was playing the cover so much too. Not only because I was playing against that guy, but because I realized that sniper was there too. So I wanted to stay. I was like, if the sniper takes out the guy I'm shooting, that's fine as long as I don't go down.
Yeah. And this spot is really, really good, man. This crane up top, just because you can get a lot of peek shots on like the spawns that are coming in. But the main thing you want to be doing is, aside from checking that spawn under you, check the loot up top. You're obviously aware of that guy that was sniping at you earlier, so you're basically playing according to not only the people that are spawning to try to get and funnel kills for yourself, but also playing defensively for the other guy that has height with you that's doing the same thing. So in that type of situation, it's great. You're going up top to try to... These are guys that are just trying to get to high ground from low ground, but your goal, number one goal, is to try to basically like take control of height without having anybody contest you, so that you can basically take free shots at the people that are respawning or spawning at the bottom and coming up.
Yeah, and like here, you know, tournament and in the tournaments that we've seen so far, you can't go in with any you can't go in with anything, right? No, so like there's like usually no heals, so you really have to make use of the heal stations and stuff, because you're not rolling with 5 bandages all the time. So the tournaments have been really interesting because it's a different play style because of the loot and the inventory. Like there's not as much sniping because there's less, nobody's bringing guns in, you know what I mean? So there's only few snipers on the map. And see here, I'm getting away with 5 HP.
That was a good escape. And like you were saying, like a lot of it, since you guys don't have that much healing, picking and choosing the fights that you take is like the key. So in general, if you're not ahead in a fight, taking the coin flip might not be worth it, in the sense that like you're gonna have people that are gonna be rotating in, or a third party that's gonna be pushing you, unless of course you're height, because if you're height, even if they contest you, you're gonna have the first jump on them.
Now, you've played in a lot of tournaments and various games, and I wanted your thoughts on, and I know Deadrop's its own thing, but the rules of the tournament are going to determine a lot. But so one thing that I think was in my head and in a lot of players' head is like, how aggressive should I play this? Because it is a kill race, obviously, but there's also points for getting the dead drop at the end, which is also valuable. So like, what are your thoughts on that in general? Like the aggression and like the pace of play.
So in general, like I was saying earlier, it's good to try to pick your fights and not overcommit in a situation that you're not ahead already, or you're not or if you're behind like you were there. So it is good that you're kiting away and trying to take a more safer approach here. But in general, like as a general rule in this game specifically, you want to play very, very aggressive. And the reason why you want to do that is because, first of all, they're guns that just guarantee your kill. Like if you have positioning with the shotgun, like we were talking about earlier. Also, with how the gun mechanics work in general, since there's literally no recoil, there's no real gun skill outside of just pure aim, if your aim is just like on point. So if you take the fight and you have the first shot on the person, if you hit your shots, you're going to win. It's as simple as that. So that mixed with the movement as well, since you can, there's bunny hopping in this game. So if you combo your momentum and then you mix that up with the bunny hop, you can pretty much get full momentum on swings when you're peeking situations, like up close, especially with the shotgun. So typically what I do is, depending, obviously the main thing is what loadout do you have. So if you have something that's like more up close, like the shotgun's honestly like just busted. It's way overtuned in this game. So there's situations where if you're playing on like more of like in the areas that have a lot more close quarter combat, not as much as like this area right here or like the open zones, you can pretty much just chow people based on the fact that you hear them. Just if you know somebody's there, you have a shotgun, just push them no matter what. You will always want to play aggressive. So the main thing, obviously, like we were saying earlier, like if you do get away from a fight, it is good, but you don't want to go too far out of the fight to give up your height. Like earlier when you got out of that situation, it was good because you basically got to a different position and you got to re-heal again, and you didn't have to take that fight that you were at a disadvantage in. But by going as far down as you did, you took the zip line, you went like multiple levels down. Which, I mean, it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing early on, because there's still going to be people that are respawning and you're going to be able to take fights down there, but you're basically setting yourself further behind from the start to not play from high ground.
Right.
But if you, like what we were saying earlier about the heals situation in tournaments, since they don't let you bring in heals, you kind of have to play strategic based on the healing stations. Like, you could potentially be playing an entire round depending on where you spawn if you're low enough. In like the shipping area, the shipping container areas, like the lower ground sections that have healing stations just aren't that, like, they're not out in the open like the one up top in front of Skybridge. Because Skybridge, I mean, it's like it's an open, it's a very, very open area in general, but that healing station has like vantage points from, you could see it from everywhere. You can literally see it from everywhere above. So it's probably the riskiest heal station you can hit. So if you feel like early game you're not getting as many heals in the tournament setting, it is good to try to figure out, okay, like, let me see if I can get my route to be around somewhere where if I do need a heal, it could be not only easy to get the heal, but safe. And doing it up top is not really the move with that. So you got to kind of balance how your RNG is early, how you spawn, where you spawn, and based on that, that's the calculation of, okay, am I going to play more passive and play low ground, try to play safer, and try to calculate my approach to this by, like, basically like it's a safety net if you have that healing station available to you.
Yeah.
Or is it something where it's like, okay, I'm far enough ahead early on to where I can just force the high ground fights, try to take my dominance over the top section of the map, and then anybody that's respawning or fighting, I can take the third party shots from above, try to commit. Like, you can take zip lines into fights too from up there if you want to commit on a fight. So there's always that option. And like, I've seen a lot of the stuff you've been doing with the posts where you like jump off and mantle stuff. Like, you can do a lot of verticality type plays if you want to from high ground, if you want to commit. So high ground will always give you more options, but the main thing you're obviously having to maintain is, okay, like, who else is here? Can I take them out first? And just try to, like, you don't want to stay up here, even though it is like the best possible way to defend the way top area, but you constantly want to be going from that from the crane area to the sky bridge area, because those are like the two opposite ends, and try to make sure, okay, like, am I watching both sides of the map for spawns as they come up to the map?
That was an issue that I had, and I have another VOD. I don't know if we'll break it down, but I think it was the game directly after this. So I held the top. I held the top. Like, I defended it like literally like the entire match. And I was in contention for the dead drop. I think there was like 2 or 3 of us left at the end, and I sat on top of crane, which, as we all know, is like a super power position. But because I had it, like nobody challenged me like the entire game. Like, everybody stayed hidden from me, and like I got like 2 kills, which, like, you know, so be it. You know, it's points. But like, because they knew I was up there, like I think I should have played it more aggressively. Like, I should have left it, and just because, like, I didn't even use all 3 of my lives. Like, I held that position like the whole game, and I ended up, like, I did okay, but I think I would have got more points if I just, like, but it's that risk reward, right? Like, what if I leave this position and then somebody else takes it, and now they're punishing me from you know, the position that I had, you know?
Yeah. The priority one for you should be, okay, like, I have high ground and I can get kills and get a vantage point for kills, rather than, okay, I have high ground and I'm going to win the game because of it. Like, it's not that you, like, your priority, you should want to win the game and finish, like, get the dead drop, but your priority by being up there is that, okay, like, by seeing more things that are going on, you have the option to be able to affect and third party more fights than anybody who's on low ground. So it's not to say that you're holding high ground because it's the place where you finish the match and you want to make sure you're the one holding that. It's that you're holding high ground because it has the most accessibility to be able to get into fights. Now, that does mean, obviously, sometimes you're gonna have to let go of the high ground. You're gonna have to go after fights, and that might mean that somebody from the other side of the map is able to take height. And if they do, you're going to have to fight for it again, obviously, as the map progresses. But your priority isn't to hold height. It's to basically use height to your advantage to be able to third-party kills.
I love
if you have a sniper rifle, obviously, if you have a snipe, like, you can do it a little more, obviously. Like, you could kick it up top a bit more because you can pick kills off spawn sometimes even. But in general, as a general rule, it's more of just like, it is, like you said, it is the best spot to hold if you're just trying to hold out till the end. But if you're trying to get kills, you want to make it to where, okay, let me put pressure from crane. Then when the rest of the map sees I'm here and is trying to rotate accordingly, I can move over to, let's say, Skybridge and catch that rotation up. Cool thing about Skybridge is, like, let's say you put pressure on Crane, and people are going to be playing according to Crane. Even if they push you from under Crane, if you move over to Skybridge, you can see Crane from there, take shots. And obviously, if they're just going to do the normal rotation up Skybridge and they're going to try to flank you, you'll be there. But it's that constant swing between where you're at on Crane and the Skybridge, where you can kind of maintain the spawns from up here, and then based on where people are, you can kind of use your movement to go and try to flank.
So there's something really funny going on here. Speaking of holding Crane, if you roll the footage back while we were talking, we heard a random sniper shot, and then I didn't know where it was from, and the guy was literally right there. He missed two shots on me. So now I think he was a third, and now it's just me and this guy in a 1v1, and the lift is coming down in 10 seconds. This is the final fight here. And I lost that one.
That was a good fight. In general, when it comes to the last one, since it's 1v1, your main priority there is just to figure out, okay, let me get the information. Where's the final guy? That's number one. Once you figure out where he's at, your goal is just to try to approach that situation as optimally as possible, as like just FPS, general FPS rules. So like, you want to make sure that you have the peak on him. You want to make sure you have cover around you. You want to make sure, let's say you have the longer angle than the shorter angle. Just like in anything, like attack shooter, for example, the reason why people hold longer angles is because you're going to see the enemy quicker than they're going to see you, right? So it's just situations like that where it's like, okay, if he doesn't have the information of where I'm at, I'm playing for information. If I find out where he's at, then I have to basically, like, it's chess at that point. You're trying to fight him in the best way possible. And there are a lot of ways you can do that. Obviously, it just comes down to playing accordingly to your information that you're getting. But this in general was good. Once you took this guy out, it's like, okay, so there's one guy left. There's a good chance he's up top because Deadrop's happening. You know he probably knows you're around this area. So think of it like a radar blip on his screen. So he thinks you're there. You know he's up here somewhere. You play according to the fact that he thinks you're there. It's like, it's pretty much that. So in this situation, he was going towards that crane section from, it looked like around top Skybridge or around that building. He thought you were at the crane. So you going around here is like, it's a really good play in general for movement because you're basically repositioning. The problem is when you went out in the open there. So if you just peek that left side instead of going through and walking out in the open and looking for him, it's like, okay, first step, killed the guy on the crane. Second step, he's looking for me based on my shot audio cue. Third step, I'm flanking to the left around to get a vantage point based on where his approach would be on his radar blip, right? Based on where he thinks I am. So then once he peeks that, you're basically playing according to his push on the information that you gave him. So in that, if you hold that left angle, not to say that it would have guaranteed gone that way, but it's that if you hold that left angle and he's pushing Crane from wherever he was, he has the burden of peeking because he has the information, right? You don't know where he's at, he knows where you're at. So like you can kind of force his hand there, which is what he kind of had to do. He had to kind of peek that and look over towards Crane. But in general, up to that point, I think overall you played this pretty well. The only thing I think you could have done a little bit differently is not to say that you shouldn't have played off when you got hit and you didn't have heals. You had to kind of like disengage there. But you took a few levels too many when it came to going to low ground, because then at that point you kind of had to spend the rest of your map rotating instead of fighting.
I have two questions for you, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So here, as I'm running out, I get what you're saying. Like I could have played around like this corner and not exposed myself. But once I'm out, so my thought right here is like, okay, you know, I don't see him or hear him up at the top here, so I'm gonna make a play to get that high ground for when the lift comes down, right? So when I run out, which I didn't have to, like you said, but once I'm here, like I decide to engage him here. Would you have made the call to just run up top, just like keep going and get to the high ground like my original plan was? Instead of stopping,
it's at that point it's already pretty much lost. So like it's not that it's 100% lost, it's that you're at a disadvantage. So being out in the open in the position you were at, the only real play you have is, okay, you have to fight him, and to fight him you have a little ledge in front of you kind of as cover. So maybe crouch behind that a bit, use your crouching and your strafe to kind of make it to where half your body isn't able to be hit during that. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, you already committed to being out in the open, so at that point you just have to fight. There isn't much you can do outside of that.
Okay. And then my second question, or I don't know if it's my second question so much as a point, but like I was saying earlier, I think that death you just saw me have like a moments ago was, if I recall correctly, it's like my only death, I think. So I think I still had a life to play with because like you know we're talking earlier, like I escaped and I was able to heal up and I gave up high ground, but then I make it back and so on. Do you think, like, so in Deadrop specifically, you get those 3 chances? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, should I have played a little more aggressively with one of my lives here until I, I'm on that last spawn basically? Like, take some more risks in hopes of getting some more KP.
Early game, especially if you're in a tournament setting like this, where the other tournament players, basically like the good players that you're going to be fighting against, they're also not going to have loot, right? They're going to be playing with the same RNG loot pool that you have on that specific game. So if that's the case, that means that in general, the average power level of a player you have to worry about is going to be lower than it normally would be. So that, combined with the fact that you have multiple lives in a game like this, means that playing very, very aggressive in general is a good thing, but especially on your first life, you want to kind of it's like a multiplier and you combo your way up. So early on, you have less to lose because if you die, you didn't bring anything in with you. That, like, the only thing you're doing is resetting your RNG on your loot area. So play super aggressive early on. You kind of want to try to see, okay, like, what can I get done with my first life? Even if it means you die, it's completely fine. That second life, the only thing it's going to change is your positioning and whatever you had picked up to that point.
Okay. And I guess my last question, and I don't know if you have more thoughts or anything, but is there anything you notice in general about like my general FPS mechanics that stands out to you in a good way or bad, obviously? I know I have one egregious sin that I commit all the time. I don't know if you picked it up while you're watching or not, but I can tell you what it is if you want me to.
Like crosshair placement?
I look at the ground when I'm running a lot.
Yeah, you look down a lot.
Yeah.
So that's something that in tac shooters in general becomes like your core skill set, more than aim in games like Valorant or CS most of the time. The main thing that matters is your crosshair placement. Map knowledge, obviously, and crosshair placement. Those go hand in hand because if you know the map and know where your enemies can come from, you know where to be aiming. But in general, you don't want to have that much deviation from where you're looking to where your target is, and anything that you have to do reactively is going to lower your accuracy dramatically. So the main thing is, like, always aim where you think that they could, like right now when you're moving around, your crosshair back there should either be top of crane, back of crane, up the stairs where the crane, like to go up to the crane, or to the left where the actual dead drop area is, looking at like the wall where somebody could peek you, like from the actual angle where he would peek you from the right to left at headshot level or body shot. It doesn't matter, like you don't have to be super precise, but you just want your crosshair to always be aiming in the direction to where you think somebody could potentially be, no matter what. And that goes for any type of, like even here, for example, like your crosshair is aiming at the window, the glass thing. If you aim at either the doorway to the right, by the box, somewhere to where if somebody peeks you, even if you don't think they're there, you reactively will be able to do that a lot quicker. And in games like Valorant and CS, you don't have much margin for error. So like if you're not doing that and the other guy is, you're going to lose pretty much 9 times out of 10. It's not as important in games that are like this or like arena shooters, but if you do have that skill set down, it makes it to where you're pretty much a leg up from anybody else.
Do you know why? Because I've seen it a lot and I've heard about it a lot. Why it's so natural for so many people to look down, to have their crosshair placement like on the floor. Like, why is that?
It's typically, most of the time, people are, especially if you're used to like old school games, the FOV scaling in games, they even had like a thing back in the day to where depending on the horizontal and vertical scaling, you obviously see more to left or right versus up and down. Games are very like, they have their own unique way of doing that, so it depends on the game. But in a lot of games, like back in the day, like Halo, COD, all of these games, typically, even if you looked down, you could still see pretty clearly up, like above it, to where you're going, in the direction you're going. So most people would just look down and kind of have it out of habit to just look above where they're going and see like everything clearly. That being said, even back then, games had implemented a thing that would automatically kind of bring your cursor up when you would be walking. I think Halo had that feature in Halo 3 to where if you were sprinting, it would automatically kind of like raise your crosshair back to center level. And it just goes to show that it is a very common habit in general, but it's more of just like a people kind of like try to see over or look over, and they think they could see more clearly that way. That being said, like if your crosshair is aiming exactly where it needs to aim, instead of trying to find the target or look for the target and then move your crosshair to the target, you're pretty much already doing half the job. So
Right.
it definitely is something that you got to make a habit of. And every game's a different when it comes to that, but you can do it in any game, which is cool. So just constantly make that habit of, okay, like if I'm peeking into a hallway, I want to be aiming at headshot level. I want to be clearing the angle from the points where he could potentially be bit by bit. In Valorant, they even like individually peek each angle one by one and try to see, okay, is that guy, is a guy over there? Is he on the box? Is he on the right angle peek? Is he? So they individually peek one by one and always have their crosshair exactly where it needs to be for that shot to fire. If you're even aiming at the chest instead of the head in those types of games, you'll lose.
Right.
So, like this, like it's situations like this where you're already aiming pretty well. It's a good example to give because if you're already at headshot level, all you're really doing is horizontal movement. That guy's pretty much going to walk into your shot. So it's all about just making your life easier, your job easier in aiming.
Okay. Gotcha. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty good. I think that was a pretty comprehensive look. Is there anything else that you want to add or?
In general, I'd say you can obviously always improve on your aim, just your core mechanics. This is like a game that, since there's no recoil, if your aim and your reaction's fast enough and you have the advantageous position by understanding the game, most of the time you're gonna win you're gonna win the fights. So obviously, like if you're doing other stuff like working on your aim, doing aim labs, doing some general aim training, it's going to benefit you in the game always. It's going to improve your like core mechanics. When it comes to the actual game itself and learning how to optimally use your spawn, where you spawn, and your rotations based on your spawn, and how to hold the map, that's all like just game sense and map knowledge that you just got to develop over time by playing the game. Obviously, this game's like a lot newer, so everybody's kind of learning together in a lot of ways, but
so much is going to change too.
Yeah, a ton. And I think
recoil's gonna change totally.
The recoil for sure, and the balancing of some of the weapons, like it's just like the shotgun truly doesn't have any counterplay. It's very obnoxious. So like there's obviously things that are going to change over time, but I think as just a core game mechanic, aim you can always work on, but it's not that like there's no recoil control. There's not like, it's just pure beam where you're aiming is where it's going to shoot. The general things like the general mechanics and stuff, like you could always improve on, but the game itself is obviously going to be developing. But overall, I think with what you're doing specifically, I think you're going to be ahead of the game in general because you're trying to find mechanics that are within the game that give you that advantage, like the movement stuff. If somebody knows how to do that versus they don't, like you're going to outplay that guy every time. So everything else, it's just like it'll come over time with practicing and playing FPS games. Obviously, there are more advanced and more in-depth lessons that we could go into when it comes to just pure aim and aiming, but it's like a combination of both in this game, and it's not that key to your success when it comes to Deadrop.
So if people want to, follow you or get a lesson from you or talk to you and get your input, tell us where to find you. Where can people? Because you do coaching and stuff. So in addition to streaming and competing professionally, so give us some of that.
Yeah, so I stream pretty much every day, and my coaching specifically is usually done either live through stuff that I'm playing, or if you want to coach, like if you want to book a specific coaching session about aim training or like a game specifically, I'm an official coach on Metafy as well. So you could do all the booking on there and just have like, you could schedule it all through there. It's pretty straightforward. And obviously you can always DM me on Discord or on Twitter at MakeAbellyGG. Either way, like reach out and I'll be able to help you out.
That's it for this one, guys. Long video. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys took some wisdom from Machiavelli. Again, contact him anywhere on Twitch, Discord, Metafy, Twitter. Talk to him, hire him, whatever. Watch his gameplay on Twitch, and then ask your questions on Twitch as well. All around great guy, highly skilled gamer. So shout out to him for helping us out. And let us know if you have questions. Maybe he'll pop in and answer those questions down in the description if you leave them. So that said, no further ado, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out this word from one of our sponsors, and we'll see you in the next video. Mayor Reynolds, out. This video is sponsored by G Fuel. Use code MAYOR at any time to get 20% off your order at G Fuel on gfuel.com or the G Fuel app. Just go to the website, select one of their many, many, many amazing flavors in both tubs, cans, G Fuel hydration, whatever G Fuel products you want. Use code MAYOR at checkout to get 20% off. I guarantee you, You're gonna feel hyped when you drink G Fuel. Come watch my streams if you need any more evidence of that. Get some G Fuel today. Use code MAYOR for 20% off. And thanks to G Fuel for sponsoring all of our content.